Good morning or evening. I don't know what time you're watching this, but just going to let you guys watch me saw and kind of talk with you a little bit. When a lot of people are getting into this type of business, there's really, three ways that you can go about it. When you're looking at this, you've got your hobbyist style or your portable style. Those are kind of in the same scaling, and the reason I say that is because the hobbyist is going to use theirs for most of their own things, and then on the side they're going to use it to maybe saw lumber from time to time. And then someone who's pulling around, they're not going to have 100, or at least majority aren't going to have 100% consecutive work over and over. And then you've got some people that are full-time that are going to saw for themselves and buy logs, scale them, do all of the above, and then work on scaling the business. And then you've got people that will partner with companies, and when they partner with them, they'll have bigger parent companies that are working with them, and they're kind of partnered under them. Each of them have their advantages and disadvantages, and it's kind of one of those things that you've got to figure out what's going to work best for you. The issues all of them will have will be scalability, and then also the employee or 1099 work, however you set your business up. The best thing that we have done, at least for my area, and this area, it's not really that we have a whole bunch of really high-paying places, but we do have places that are like Amazon and other places that hire tons and tons of people. So you've got to be super competitive with that. And I've had a whole lot of people that I've talked with, and it seems like one of the major issues, and even in other businesses, is to get people to help you. You have to figure out a way to scale it. So, a lot of things that people aren't going to tell you when you're looking into buying a sawmill, it's just like anything else. It's a very laborsome job. So, if you're just getting into this, or you're looking into doing something like this, you have to understand the risks that go along with it. And so, it's not all, it's not what it's, you look at videos with things such as mine or other people, and if they're running people with them, I would be willing to bet that 99% of them would tell you the hardest part is to keep correct help. The way that I've looked at this to scale it is the best thing that I've found to do is to, in a situation like this, is you can run this mill yourself, and then you can hire 2 people, or you can subcontract, or like I said, however you choose to do it. But if you subcontract or hire, either way, if you've got 2 people, what happens when one misses? Or what happens when 2 misses? And I promise you, if you're in this line of work, you will have that. So what we found best to do is to run longer shifts and hire someone to saw and have 3 people that you cycle between on the exterior. And I know that sounds like a lot of overhead or a lot of things to deal with, but just like us, if we have everybody miss in one day, we're losing thousands of dollars. So, which cost you more to be down, how many ever days you are trying to get people to work under you, or if you can hire on more people? And, we've got pretty good workers, but they still, in this type of business, in this type of working, I guess you would say this lineup, like I said, it's a very physical job. So, it's not like you've got a full array of people that can do this job from a physical standpoint. And then also, a lot of people do not seek jobs like this in our day and time. So it's a very, I would say it's more of a narrow dealing, as in the amount of people you're going to find that want to do this type of work. So what we've had to do is, one, we pay more than just about any other. Actually, we pay more than any other sawmill I know around. And we tend to give people bonuses on packs and things of that nature. So what you've got to figure out how to do is, if you're looking at something like this, especially if you're going to do it full-blown like we are, you're going to have to figure out how to scale this to the point that you can have a sawyer and have multiple guys that you can cycle between, and then you're still going to have hiccups along the way. And like I said, a lot of people aren't going to tell you that, unless they've already failed at it and they're open about it. But there's so many people that get in this line of work and they think, I'm going to buy a sawmill and I'm going to put people under me to work, yada, yada, yada. Well, one, the person under you working is probably going to produce 80 to 90% of what you would produce. You kind of have to think of it, in the same manner as factories or things like that. People don't tend to care about your business, at least they shouldn't care about your business as much as you do. And it's very hard to get people that will. And, it's not always a money factor. It's just that a lot of people in this day and time are A and B workers. And what I mean by that is they just, A, they want the job, and B, they want to leave the job. That's all that they really think about. They want the money and they want to leave. So they're just there to make a living. And a lot of thought process isn't put into it. So you have to really work with people, and really, what I've found is I have to really go above and beyond, and not only provide them with a job, but I've even had to go to the extent of helping them in many other factors along the way. And so, you have to really be invested in it. And what I want people to understand is it's not all, smooth sailing. It's not like you can just buy a mill and do whatever you want. And what I would say is it's going to be a lot easier in my scenario than the people that are buying these and trying to pull around and cut lumber. I know a whole lot of people that have the idea that that's a great thing to do. Like, they're going to buy a Super 70 or an LT 40 or 50. They're going to pull around these farms and they're going to cut people's lumber. One, you can have them supply the labor, but majority of the time, to really, and when I'm talking about making money with one of these, I'm not talking about making $50,000 to $100,000 with something like what we're doing. I'm talking about making big money, and if you want to do that, pulling around, if you're trying to do it, and you know, I talk to people all the time, and they've got an LT40 or LT50 or LT70, and they will get good contracts. You know, they'll get a tract of timber where someone has logged it, and it's a farmer, and they want the lumber off of it for, let's say they're building barns or whatever. They'll get a 10 to 20,000 board feet contract, and if you take an LT40 and you don't have an edger and you've got to edge that stuff, 10 to 20,000 feet is going to take you on LT40 probably a month to get it cut without an edger. And then you've got to, if they don't have help, you've got to figure out how to get help out there in that situation. And I've been in this a long time, and I've yet to find someone that is fooling around all the time and they're making big money with it. Now, a lot of them are going to say, well, I make $150 or $200 an hour pulling around. But what happens the 4 days out of a week when you don't have work, or the month that you don't have anything going on, and things like that? And I'm not trying to woo you towards any scenario or woo you out of any scenario, but I don't really think that a lot of people are telling people the true hardships that go along with something like this. And like I said, there's pros and cons to every scenario and how you set up. But I think if you really want to scale a business, and just like myself, you know, I don't want to be in a scenario to where I can't live my life and do things in the way that I've been able to do that, as you can see on, you know, YouTube and stuff. I've scaled it to where I don't have to be there 24/7. And so if you want something like that, like I said, the best way is to, one, you have to figure out how to make enough money with it, as in your profitability. And a whole lot of people, there's another thing that I see, and I see people struggle with. You know, they look at it from, you know, they went into this, and in their mind, they've never put the pencil to paper. And so, for instance, let's say that at the end of the week, they make $2,000 or $3,000. You know, let's go with a number like that. There's definitely way more money to be made and way less in situations. But I know a lot of people that have looked at that number, $2,000 or $3,000 at the end of the week of what they've made, and they've thought, you know, I'm making great money. But then they figure they've got 2 guys that they're paying under them. They've got blades, they've got fuel, they've got electricity, they've got all of these things that are coming from that $2,000 or $3,000, and really they're not making any more than they would be if they was working for someone else. And like I said, you have to really, if you want to scale this and do things the correct way, numbers and running your numbers in comparison to what you're coming out with, it's huge, because it's not like, you know, you're taxing yourself. If you're in this line of business, you pay taxes in, and a lot of people wait till the last minute to do so. They're not doing it quarterly, and that's something I would highly recommend in a business like this. Make sure you stay on top of your stuff and don't let things catch you by surprise. And also, even though I'm a small business. I consider myself a very small business. I treat it like it's a big business. I treat it like it's scaled big. What I mean by that is if I make a certain amount of money, I don't spend that money. I take that money and reinvest it, or I buy things in bulk. And there's a lot of tricks to the trade. You can go into this business and you can buy your blades one box at a time. You can buy parts here, buy parts there. I would highly recommend doing some research and pushing the boundaries with how and what you're buying. And what I mean by that is if you have the ability to buy 100 blades, which is usually the normality in this line of business, 100 to 200 blades on a pallet, and save yourself $600, you've got to realize if you're buying blades 3 to 4 times a year and you save $500 to $600 per time, think how much that adds up over time. And that's just one aspect. It goes all the way into diesel fuel. It goes into chainsaw blades. It goes into every aspect of this. If you can buy things in bulk and you can just save the money, it's really hard at first. That's the biggest thing. People get in this and it's hard at first because most people, when they're getting a loan, what they think about is they're like, okay, a brand new mill, we'll just use Super 70 for instance. Let's say a new mill and a new edger is $120,000. So they go to the bank and they say, hey, I'm looking at a business loan. I want to get a business loan for $120,000. Well, the problem with that is you still got to get blades, you still got to get belts, you still got to get rollers, you still got to get, all these other things. And I think, like I said, if you think about it as a business you're looking to scale, don't look at it in such a small perspective. Look, the thing jumped out of the plant. Let's see if I can get the plant back. But anyway, I don't want to get off subject. You've got to look at it from the standpoint of you're wanting to scale this futuristically. If you're really wanting to make big money, and like I said, if you're a hobbyist or something like that, I would say your biggest conflict will be health and things of that nature. But if you're wanting to scale this, you've got to really focus on cutting cost and having profitability. That's the biggest thing in this. And especially, buying logs and things like that, because you could buy, 40 or 50 or let's say $10,000 worth of logs. And you could buy those, and let's say you're in a scenario to where you saw different types and you bought some here, some there, and then the market drops and you don't make as much off those as you had planned. And yes, that will happen. You're going to have to, like I said, don't look at it as a week-to-week basis on everything. Try to look at it as a business you're wanting to scale, and when you can bulk buy things, it's just going to benefit you. And if you're in a line of business like this, there's things crazy that happen. And I will give you, for instance, I had a mill, and the oil filters and just like on this Super 70, the oil filters and the fuel filters will screw onto each other. That sounds like a no-brainer, but the guys that work for me changed the oil. I no longer do that, but one of them screwed in fuel filter on the oil filter, and it wouldn't let if you guys know, a fuel filter filters way more than a oil filter. You know, it's made to filter at a finer rate, so it can't let it flow correctly or 100% like an oil filter would. And an oil filter 90% of the time has a bypass in it, where if your motor is starving itself for oil, that it'll bypass under a certain pressure, so you don't starve your motor for oil. I had them put a fuel filter on the oil filter, and it locked cylinder number 3 up on my mill, which cost me roughly $10,000. And it wasn't like I could wait to get. I mean, I could have waited and went and got a loan and got approved and so forth, but at the same time I would have had interest on top of that, another payment. Just there's a lot of stuff in that, and so I had the money and just went and bought another motor and had it put on, and was up within, I think it was 3 days, including the day that it happened, from that time until I had it on and back in solid. And the reason that I look at it in that manner is because if I'm down those 3 days, I've lost thousands and thousands of dollars. And when you look at it, let's say something like that happens once every 5 years or whatever, some crazy accident like that. And a lot of you, it may never happen. But like I said, I'm talking to people that are looking into getting into this. There's stuff that happens that you don't expect. And so if you're making $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000, $10,000, $15,000 a week, don't go and spend whatever you're making. And I'm sure that a lot of people are like, well, I would never do that. But you've probably been in the business long enough that you understand it. But there's people just getting into this, and they make, I've seen them make $1,000 a week, and they think that they're making a killing. But really, by the time they figure, really they're just living week to week, and that $1,000 keeps coming. But at the same time, they're pulling from one week to another, and they never run the numbers. And if you're going through 4 blades a day or 5 blades a day, whatever, if you're running 8 or 10 hours, you're going to at least go through 4 blades. No ifs, ands, or buts, unless you're just running a blade until it absolutely pops. The way we run ours is we sharpen them, so we run them an hour and a half to 2 hours and do it like that. But you're going to go through 4 to 5 blades a day. You're going to go through probably 10 to 12 gallons of fuel a day. You've got drive belts, you've got blade wheel guides, you've got the bearings inside the blade wheel guides, you've got drive, all your belts, pulleys, and anybody that's ran one of these hydraulic mills, at some point you will blow a hydraulic hose, or you'll have something hit a hydraulic hose, and then you'll shoot half of your fluid out on a Super 70 like this, and 1 gallon of fluid for this is crazy expensive. I don't even know what they get on it now because we buy it in a drum, but just get on Woodmizer's website and look at what a gallon of oil for this thing costs. I think it's like 50. I can't, like I said, I don't even know what it is now. But I've got a gallon of it sitting on the shelf right now, and it's still sitting there. Like I said, we don't buy it directly from them. But anyway, let's say that you bust a hydraulic hose on one of these mills, and when you bust it, it shoots half your fluid out of the hose, and you're probably like, oh, I wouldn't shoot half the fluid out. Well, it might be a couple of minutes before you realize you blew that hose off her, and then you go out there and look at your tank, and it's below the glass, and you realize you've shot 3, 4, 5 gallons out. Well, not only do you got to fix the hydraulic hose, you've got the downtime, you're still paying guys while they're there. I mean, like I said, there's so many aspects that go into this, and I think a lot of people just hear numbers, but they don't realize what goes into those numbers. And believe me, you can make excellent money in this. I'm not saying you can't. I just don't want you to think, or everybody to think, that it's all roses. There's a whole lot of goes, and I'm just scratching the surface. I could go into crazy details and, you know, really give you ample amount of information to look at these situations. But at the same time, you know, I think the information I'm giving you will benefit you and give you an idea. And it's along with any business. But if you want to get into this in the manner that we're getting into it, treat it like you're gonna, you know, pretend you don't make any money the first year and just bulk buy everything you can. And I would tell you in your business loan, when you're looking at this, make sure that you're comfortable. Don't go into it and just, unless you've just got, you know, money up front and you just need the money for the equipment. But like I said, there's a blue million other aspects in this, and the mill and the edger are not the only thing that's going to cost you money. And like I said, a lot of people, when they buy these mills, they end up doing a lot of things wrong in the first 6 months. But anyway, I hope you guys have a good day, and hopefully that information helps you and doesn't hinder your mind process on this. Like I said, if there's any questions, you can kind of list them in the comments, and I'll do my best to steer you in the right direction.